podcasting from the great city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, home of the Franklin Institute. This is the TeacherCast Podcast. Hello, everyone. This is Jeff Bradbury, and welcome to another episode of the TeacherCast Podcast from teachercast.net. The TeacherCast Podcast is a weekly show where we discuss the 21st century technologies that teachers need to utilize in their 21st century classrooms. Today we have two wonderful teachers to talk with us about their uses of technology in the classroom. From the great state of Arizona, we have 8th grade teacher Cary Fields. Hello, Cary. How are you today?
Hello. I am very well, thank you.
How are things out in Arizona?
Quite warm.
About how warm would you say it is these days?
Let's see. Today's high was about 112.
You're going to tell us it's a dry heat, so it doesn't really matter, right?
Well, usually it is a dry heat. However, recently it has been quite humid, making it feel almost 120.
Oh.
So
that's amazing that you're out there. Where in Arizona are you?
The southwest. I'm very near the California border. I would say San Diego is about, depending on how fast you drive, about 2 hours away.
Nice. Is it a city? Is it like a deserty area?
It's a deserty city. Yes.
Wow. I've got some friends that live out in New Mexico, and I've got a relative that lives out in Maricopa. Do you know where that is?
Yes.
So I've been trying to get myself out to Arizona, but I don't know. That's 120 degrees. I'll stick with Philadelphia.
Right.
Well, thank you for coming on the program. And from the great state of Virginia, we have Christopher Hoovler. How are you, Chris?
Hanging in there, doing great. Looking forward to the back-to-school season. Getting ready to jump right back in.
Have you already begun doing your back-to-school shopping?
Actually, in Virginia, we had a tax holiday this weekend on all school supplies. So my wife went out and she's third grade teacher, and I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th band. And so she stocked up on a bunch of stuff for her classroom, and I usually keep it low-key, so I didn't have to get too many things. But that's about it.
I always like this time of year. I used to work at Staples, and we always used to have the "It's the most wonderful time of the year" playing all throughout the summertime.
Yeah.
I love
Kids
that
love
commercial, but yeah, it's a doozy of a time. But and is it 120 degrees where you are?
No. I think with the humidity, it might feel like about 95, but which is bad enough. So I can't imagine what it feels like in Arizona.
It's about 90, 92 degrees today out in Philadelphia. Well, thank you again, guys, for being on the program. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. Really, the focus of today's show is going to be the apps that we use and how we use them on the classrooms. I asked Cary and I asked Chris before the show to have their iPads ready, and we're going to do a big round robin later on in the show over what apps do we use and what are some of the new technologies that we can be looking forward to using in the classroom this year. But first, I just like to get to know you guys a little bit. Cary, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and where do you teach and what do you do?
I am an 8th grade language arts teacher, English teacher. I teach at Castle Dome Middle School here in Yuma, Arizona. This is going to be my 13th year teaching. And I have pretty much ever since I began teaching, from the early days with my clamshell iBook, connecting it to the TV in my classroom, have always in some way, shape, or form used technology because I always saw it as an interest to me, and I knew it was an interest to students. And so it always was a way to get the students involved because it's just a really neat platform to bring forth curriculum. And I'm married. My husband's a fireman. And I have 3 great kids.
Excellent. What color was your laptop back then?
Back then? It was the blueberry clamshell iBook.
I was just watching the Steve Jobs, it was on YouTube, of course, but where he demonstrated the first clamshell notebooks, and it comes in all these colors, and it has a handle, and everybody was, it has a handle.
Didn't they call those the toilet bowl models or the toilet lids or something?
Well, yes, it looked like that when you carried it with the handle.
Yeah.
Chris, tell us a little bit about what you do out in Virginia.
This will be my 15th year teaching in Virginia. But my first school way back when is right when the internet was starting to take off, and I had gotten myself in a little bit of a pickle because I started to make an MP3 collection. Ooh. And the MP3, now not illegally, let's say, just collecting them, ripping CDs for my kids to listen to. And I wound up crashing the school servers because they were trying to figure out where all their space had gone, and I didn't realize how much space I was taking up, and nobody really knew what they were doing back then either. So quite a long ways we've come from then. But been using computers in the classroom for quite a long time. I still like the old chalkboard when necessary, but I do appreciate what technology is capable of doing, and having worked on developing apps for the iPhone and iPad, it's just a lot of fun to see how we can use this stuff to make our lives easier, but at the same time it makes it a little more complicated. So it's a balance between trying to get the kids to do what they do best and what we do best.
Do you still have chalkboards at your school?
We have whiteboards, and they just put in smartboards at my school probably 3 years ago. So every room has a whiteboard, and I have one whiteboard, one board with 5 lines for the musical staves, and then the smartboard occupies the far right. And so I use all 3.
Excellent. Chris and I share a very common interest. Chris is a band teacher. I'm an orchestra director, so I've been wanting to get Chris on and talk to him about what he uses smartboards for and how does he use technology. So I'm looking forward today to some of the things that Chris is bringing with us. Cary, you said that you've been using all these different technologies for the last many years. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that's new this summer that you've seen that you might want to be implementing that we should know about?
Well, just this summer, I got the iPad 2, and so I will be looking to use that in my classroom. I don't really have the connector to do it yet, but at this point, I use a document camera, and I just figured that we will use the document camera as sort of a way to get the image projected onto the whiteboard.
What's a document camera?
It's a camera that literally hovers over a space provided for you where you can put an actual Word document, forms, whatever, that projects onto my Promethean board.
Okay. So is it like an overhead?
It's really cool. It's like an overhead, but better because it's an actual image of whatever you put on that document space.
Okay.
So literally, I'll put the iPad there with whatever app we're running, and it will project onto the Promethean board.
And what were you? And did you have an iPad before?
Yes, I had the first one, and then when this summer I was fortunate enough to go to Philadelphia to the ISTE conference.
Ooh.
And I was lucky enough to win my iPad 2.
Oh wow!
Oh,
so I was.
I wanted to go
really
to that
excited.
conference. Unfortunately, I found out about that conference a little bit too late, and didn't have a chance to go. It was right in my backyard here. But how was the conference?
Oh, it was amazing. It was nearly 20,000 people.
Oh wow!
And it was just amazing, just wonderful. So many resources. It just you might become overwhelmed. Like, oh my gosh, what do I do first? Well, the idea is to not become overwhelmed and take one little piece and then work with it and then go back and see what you like the best.
Chris, you've been using your iPad for a while too, right?
I'm actually one of the geeks who kind of stood in line for that first one. I was thinking the whole time, this is just a giant iPhone, Then once you really do, it's just as they say, once you touch the device and you get your hands on it and really kind of feel it out, it really is much different than you expect. So the first iPad, had a ton of fun with it. Started to develop some really basic soundboard type apps for children, animal sounds, things like that. And one of the biggest differences that got me from Apple's perspective that they forced on developers, which was One of the things that makes the iPad so cool, on the iPhone, the same app, whether you have the phone up or left or right or whatever, the app stays the same. But on the iPad, Apple won't let you get away with it. When you turn the device 180 degrees, the app has to turn with you. There's no getting around it, no matter who you are. So I actually had to figure out how to code the app to be not just larger for the iPad, but to play the iPad's rules, and which are a bit different than the iPhone. And then, of course, the iPad 2's best feature for me is just that smart cover, and you just pop it off, and you don't have to swipe to open or anything, which makes using it much easier for me. A year of the first iPad and tapping the button and then swipe to open. I mean, it's only 3 seconds, but it was like 3 seconds times 50 a day times 365 days a year. And, I wound up saving like 4 or 5 minutes of swiping. So that smart cover is really actually pretty cool.
Did you get a smart cover, Cary?
No, I actually got a keyboard case. It's a Kensington keyboard case. And the reason I love this so much is because I do take a lot of notes, and it's just the functionality and the portability of it. Mm-hmm. And it just, while I did want the smart cover, I just saw this as it's more like a notebook you could carry around, and it literally looks like a book. And I open it up, and people are like, "Oh my God," because it looks like a little miniature netbook. And I hate saying that because I'm so pro Apple, but it looks really, really, it's just awesome. I love it.
Chris, do you have a keyboard for your iPad yet?
No, I had gotten so used to the phone and the autocorrect, how it can be quirky and whatnot. It was a pretty easy transition to use the keyboard on the screen for me. But I've one other thing that I forgot to mention is comparing the two with the smart cover, especially, is the smudges. That screen just got filled with smudges, and I would clean it probably twice a week, trying to get all of it off. But the way the cover is designed, if you just put it in your case and it just barely kind of moves a little bit, your glass the screen is basically brand new every time you open it, which is that was another big headache with the first one, is just the smudges all the time. So that was the other thing that was cool.
Nice. I don't have a smart cover for mine. I did a couple days ago on a gift certificate. I picked up a Logitech Bluetooth keyboard, and I'm looking forward to using it. I've been, the last few months of school, I've been taking my iPad and my MacBook Pro to work, and I've been leaving my laptop at my desk and taking the iPad to class, which kind of brings us around. Like, Chris, what apps are you using in your music classes?
For educational purposes, sometimes, and I have the adapter to take this thing from to a VGA cable, okay, so that it can connect to my projector. So you can't interact with the projector, so it's not a smart board anymore. You're just basically the iPad connected to the projector. But you can show the kids just about anything, and just not so educationally, just to begin, Google the Maps app. We were taking a trip to Busch Gardens here in Virginia, which is about 2 hours from where I am, and some of the kids had never been outside of our town. And I just said, okay, well, let's take a look here. And I put in Busch Gardens, Virginia, in the Maps app on the smartboard. And not only do you get, of course, the map, but if you tap the Street View icon, there's a little person that's orange. It actually takes you inside of Busch Gardens where you can kind of walk around. And kids are just like, whoa, that is so cool. And I was like, yeah, if you were really good this year and kept your nose clean, you get to go. So it's just one of those things I like to do. But I think at the very beginning of the year, in contrast, Keynote, I always start my year off with a couple of quick, here's how we want to run our classroom, everybody. So I start with a keynote presentation, and it it goes right up onto the board real nicely. It's very, very slick, very clean, and Keynote's just such a solid app to begin with. So you can just do everything on your desktop, and then some of the fonts and effects won't transfer correctly. It'll kind of water that down. But Keynote's also a pretty slick app to use for the classroom.
Now let's back up just a little bit here. Cary, you teach 8th grade. Are you teaching a single subject, or are you teaching every subject?
No, I teach 8th grade English, as well as I am the AVID elective teacher for 8th grade.
What does that mean?
AVID is a 30-year-old program that promotes a college readiness atmosphere for students, and we're going into our 3rd year here at Castle Dome Middle School. I am also the site coordinator for that program, and it stands for Advancement via Individual Determination, and students go through a selection process. It aims to reach students in the middle, not necessarily all the gifted kids, and not the kids that are in an intervention type of class, but the ones that just are sitting in the back of the classroom and just barely getting by. But with a little bit of support, they would do well in an advanced placement course, which would then facilitate them to get to college and accepted to a 4-year college.
So you're really starting them early. You said 8th grade. Does it start in 7th grade, or is 8th grade the first year for this type of a program?
No, this program is at our school 6th, 7th, and 8th. 6th,
7th, and 8th. So really at a 6th grade level, you're trying to take these kids and get them ready for the college track.
Exactly.
And is that a rounded education? Does that include math, English, science, or?
Yes, it is. It is very strong in supporting the core curriculum, math, science, English, and social studies, as well as exposing the students to simple things like how to fill out a college application, how to become better public speakers, how to look at someone in the eye and prepare them for a conversation and not be shy. It pulls them out of their shell and gets them more ready for a college interview and to be accepted to a 4-year college.
That sounds like an amazing program. I wish I had when I was growing up.
Right.
Yeah, really.
It's nice that your kids are going through this kind of a college prep program. You had mentioned public speaking, and that just kind of brings around to the next topic here of what technologies should we be promoting as teachers? Should we be promoting the skill of blogging? Should we be promoting the skill of not necessarily public speaking, but being able to present yourself digitally? I'll just kind of throw the question out, but what should we be promoting, and how young should we be promoting these skills?
At my school, there's a program that the library actually runs that educates the kids on, and basically they're taught that no matter what you put online, at some point someone will know about it. And it can be anywhere from a text message to a photograph that you take and post anywhere that you may think is private. So they basically are trying to get the kids to understand that there's really no such thing as privacy when you are on the internet. And no matter how safe someone may lead you to believe it is, that at some point somebody's got the keys and can expose it. So they're trying to promote safety, and I think more than anything lately.
Yes, I definitely agree. We have that same sort of program here on our campus. Considering things that occur in our world today, we have to be very careful in ensuring that our students at any age, even down to the elementary, about internet safety and giving out what information and where.
Should we be teaching blogging as opposed to going and reading some Huckleberry Finn and writing a term paper about it?
I think blogging about Huckleberry Finn is fine.
Yeah, I think making sure that kids understand that writing and reading is always good. We have the students do a lot of free writing in class, and blogging, although some would argue that it is or isn't journalism. The point is that with the kids having the tools they have access to, I don't think there would be anything wrong at all with them writing a few paragraphs on what they thought about a particular subject, whether it was what they did in school that day or Huckleberry Finn.
I have to ask the question since you're an English teacher, and this has come up on a few of our podcasts, Cary. Should we be teaching cursive?
Oh my gosh, yes. Please, yes.
I have to ask that question. I'm sorry.
I really think it should start earlier, because by the time they're in 8th grade, they're already set in their ways. There's nothing I can do at this point. But I definitely see a place for it in the elementary, 4th, 5th grade. Yes.
Well, if it puts your mind at ease, my wife's 3rd grade, and she does. She teaches language arts as well, and she teaches cursive. But she has noted that the students just really don't understand how to read it. It's harder for her to actually get them to read something in cursive than to actually write it, and it's just she doesn't. We're too old to really get that part, but she's just baffled that the writing isn't so simple for them, but they can't read it.
We're sitting here right now putting our lesson plans together and trying to figure out what we need. And I don't have any kids yet, but I can only imagine that all of our parents are out there doing that, staple shopping spree. They're buying their pencils, their pens, their book bags and stuff. What else should we be requiring them to purchase? Should we be requesting that they bring in flash drives? Should we be requesting that they bring in, a certain amount of apps for their phone these days? What kind of digital shopping list should we ask our kids to get?
Oh, wow, that's an interesting question because of the socioeconomic implication. There is a lot of times the schools are the ones supplying most of this kind of thing, and as far as like thumb drives or that kind of thing, a lot of the storage in our district is done, on a local server or whatever, so the kids don't need to really do any kind of file swapping or anything like that. So I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. A lot of them show up with their cell phones, but they're not supposed to. They're supposed to be off anyway, but that's about all the technology most of my students have.
Right. I actually encourage students, if they have like an iPod Touch, and even in the low socioeconomic area I'm in here, many of the students have them, and I do make app recommendations for their iPods, and there's even 1 or 2 students that actually have an iPhone, and I make recommendations for them. If students can afford or can get one of those little jump drives or flash drives, I ask that they have that. If they don't, then I have them to loan in the event that they need to type something out and then finish it at home.
I had a friend,
but I don't require it because, like I said, it's really difficult, especially in these hard economic times, to get parents on board with, okay, you need to have this flash drive and it's $20, and parents living paycheck to paycheck. It's just hard.
I had a friend of mine tell me that she went to a bunch of the teacher conventions only for the purpose of going to the booths and getting free thumb drives for her kids.
I know, totally.
I mean, look, in reality, you can go to Walmart and get an 8 gig flash drive for $6. But in reality, also, should we start off the first day of class and say, all right, everybody go to your computer, sign up for Dropbox? Should we say, here's a free 2 gigabyte file storage system. It works anywhere on the planet. Should we be requiring kids to sign up for these kinds of things? It's free.
I haven't had, with some of the middle school kids that I've had, some of their parents are still not really comfortable with, it's 6th grade especially. In 7th and 8th, they relax a bit. But even the concept of email or anything like that is just not comfortable for a lot of the parents, and we're still kind of in a transition from I would say like a digital immigrant, where we're just the parents are kind of familiar with technology or Facebook, those types of things, where the kids are kind of bathed in it and they're used to it. So we're still in this transitionary period where not everybody's quite comfortable with it, especially administrators. And I don't know, it's just sometimes the liabilities associated with some of the stuff. I don't even know that Dropbox is not blocked at my school. That's one failing of having to access things online is you just, at my school, I don't know what's blocked or not half the time. And some days some things are blocked and some days some things are open. So if I were to say use Dropbox and then the school decided that it takes too much bandwidth, they're going to cut it off.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that was the problem with YouTube is they came right out and said YouTube is fine. We understand that it serves an educational purpose in some points. However, if half the school's on YouTube, nobody can get on the internet. So that was kind of one of those things that drove it into the ground for us, is that nobody could surf the internet while the other people were on YouTube.
Which kind of brings us into our next topic here, but let's talk about the uses of technologies in our classrooms. Things like Skype, Twitter, the new Google Plus that's going to be hitting soon. Should teachers be using these types of tools?
I saw I hate to keep butting in, Cary.
That's okay.
There's an article, I think it was I can't remember, USA Today or something I read just recently that had asked that question: at what point should your kids be on the social networks? And a lot of people, should teachers be including their students on their social graph? And the answer was quite mixed. I personally don't want to friend any students. And they actually quoted a band director in this article. He's like, "These are not my friends. These are people I teach." And another teacher said, "Well, having them as a friend on Facebook actually helped me, talk them off of, something that they, were contemplating doing something terrible, and the teacher was able to reach them." So I can see the benefits, but the risks as well when it comes to the whole social media thing. There's always good uses, but there's always going to be a few bad apples in there.
Right. I encourage my students to join Twitter, and I specifically tell them, don't friend request me on Facebook, because we're not friends. I'm your teacher. But I do recommend that they get a Twitter account and safeguard it with all the safety features they can. And they follow me, Yuma Teacher, at Yuma Teacher. And I basically use it as a communication tool, not only for my students, but for my parents as well. If something's coming up, and the parents can get the Twitter feed just like the student can, and they say, oh, you have a test today in Mrs. Fields' class. Did you study? And just, it's a nice communication tool. And if you put the safety guards in place, then I'm not saying you can't get through it, but I haven't had a problem yet with it.
What are some of the ways that we as teachers can protect ourselves? For instance, I have a personal Twitter account, which I use. And I also have one that I've made up for my classes that's on my class website that I made up. Now, the one that I have for my personal life, it's completely blocked. If you want to be my friend, you have to ask permission. But my school site, of course, is posted on my website. I would love it if all of my students and parents would subscribe to it, and I kind of use that to showcase what the homework assignments and such are. But what are some of the other things that teachers can do to more, protect ourselves from the pressures of the outside world, I would say?
I actually had the opposite problem. You said you blocked the your personal one, and you opened your school one wide open. Is that what you said?
Yes.
I had this this is what happened to me. It was embarrassing. I opened a Twitter account for my teacher. I don't mean to go off topic on you, but I opened this Twitter account for my students and my parents to follow, and I'll put out what the assignment is, or when the concerts for me are coming up, or when the after school practices. And I don't have, but maybe, I don't even know, 10 followers on that in 2 or 3 years, because I locked it down. Now, the problem I had before I locked it down was I was getting spammed to death on, and I didn't realize it. I wasn't checking it frequently enough. I guess it was partly my fault. But I would have a parent join, and they would just be curious as to see who else was following me, and they would just see these, horrible spam things show up on my, and then I think that really kind of threw some parents for a loop. So how do you handle if it's wide open, how do you handle keeping up with the spam lurkers out there who just join everybody?
I've been pretty good about things. For my personal account, I don't let anybody on unless they're friends of mine, or I meet them by doing podcasts and stuff like that. The teacher cast site that we're on, I do get a few people that send me some links of questionable nature, let's say.
Exactly.
And but they're not showing up on my website.
Okay.
The way that I have the Twitter bar, it's not an ingoing and outgoing thing. It's strictly set up for whatever I tweet out. It's on, that's what shows up on the website. And usually I teach my class and go back to my office, pull out my phone, put the little Twitter homework on, and it pops up within, 5 or 10 minutes of the classroom being over. I only really have, like you said, I only probably have 6 or 8, maybe 10 Twitter followers on my school account. I haven't had any negative traffic from that, actually. I've been pretty lucky on it. I think I'm in the same boat as you guys. At the beginning of school, we do back to school night, and I talk to all the parents about Twitter and how I'm going to be a good communicator this year, and the parents are like, what's Twitter?
I get the same thing. I've done it 2 years. This will be year 3. Where the first year I might as well not even have spoken, because they were just like eyes of glass. They just whatever. Last year they were like, oh, I've heard of it. And this year probably will be, hopefully, that most of them will probably at this point have at least understand how Twitter works. So then if they don't actually have an account, go, okay, well, probably more than just me in the building are going to be pushing, this type of thing to keep up with homework, because it's just so easy to do. There's no excuse at this point for somebody not to as a parent anyway, to go ahead and just get the account and just follow their teachers.
Right. I think that's a really good point, Chris. I also set it up the same way Chris has, just the reverse. My personal one is not locked, but my teacher one is locked, and I clean it out at the end of every year so that former students can't stay on there, because I use it for an informational piece specifically for my classroom students and their parents.
And I don't lock my personal just because, to be honest with you, I just don't use it very often. I consume more information than I produce, I would say, when it comes to my personal life. So I like to read what other people are doing, but I just feel like most of the time no one cares what I'm doing, so I don't bother sharing it, because I'm like, my wife likes to get on Facebook and let it, put the family pictures out there and that kind of thing, and I love to share the photos, but I just words, I'm just not very good at sharing them. So
I know for my personal account, I rarely use it to send stuff out, but I've got such this diverse, persona here. I mean, if you look at my personal accounts, people I'm following, I've got everything from sports people to music people to a few family things to podcasters to government. I mean, nobody wants to look at all that stuff, and that's why I have it locked. I don't want to have anybody saying, "Ooh, he likes wrestling." I'm going to go and talk to him about that.
That's my personal news feed. Really, is when I want to know what's going on, I fire up Twitter, and then I know what's going on with my sports teams. I know what's going on with my local news. I know what's going on in national news, and then if there's anything else gossipy wise that I want to know about Apple, I'll see it right there. So it's just kind of my news feed. I don't really put a whole lot on my personal Twitter, so I just more read type of thing.
Do you guys keep a blog?
I won't butt in. Cary can answer that one.
I switch it up every year, so I just cleared one out, and every year I start a new one.
Do you think it's a good idea for teachers to be blogging?
It's really time consuming. So if you've got the time and the initiative, yeah, go ahead and do it. But I found for the past couple of years it's been really time consuming. Mm-hmm. And what I normally just blog is for each different class with the information that we did in that day's lesson. And what I found is that students look at the blog, they comment on it, and it kind of helps cement that day's lesson. But like I said, it's very time consuming, and I'm just looking for a way and open for suggestions on how to make it so it's not so time consuming. It just...
I think with as far as a blog goes, I do not keep a blog. I keep a website, which is one of the requirements that is placed upon us in our division, that we update basically a teacher-like site at least once a week with information about our class. Well, what I've done is actually put a script on my site that forwards the parent to my not personal, but a site that I have, complete control over when it comes to how the content is presented, because the one that the school gives you looks terrible. And I just say, okay, just forward to myfreedomband.org. And that's where I keep all the stuff going on, which has the links to Twitter and has the RSS news feeds to everything, and the calendar of the year, the school year, and everything like that. And it is very time consuming, and just keeping up with it is a big headache. And anything that I've seen, and I've started to feel guilty about this, but I keep kind of a rolling history on mine, and so I'll go to whatever was happening last year in September when it says welcome students to 2010. I look at that and I'm like, okay, change the 10 to change the 0 to a 1, and double check everything, and because it's so time consuming. And then I just post it right back up, knowing that A, most of the parents probably haven't read it, and B, if they did, they don't remember what they read a year ago. So that has actually saved me a little bit of time. It's just archiving what I've done already.
That is a topic that we're going to be hitting actually at the end of this week. I have a few principals coming on talking about how to maximize your time using technology, and it's things like that you said. Why try and reinvent the same wheel you reinvented last year?
Exactly.
For myself, I know I have the same syllabus that I've used for the last couple of years. I updated a little bit, changed some of the grading policy, but every year we're not going to go out and remake A, B, and C here. So no. I'm glad you brought up stuff like that. I don't know if you guys have been watching the news, but it seems like sometime September, October, Apple's going to be hitting our pocketbooks again with new iPhones, possibly, maybe a new iPad 3. I'd like to talk to you guys or get your opinions on some things. I'm the type of person that stands in the hallway in between classes, and I greet all of my kids, usually by name, as they walk in with, hi, how you doing, how was your day, kind of thing. And I always have my iPhone with me. And the kids always look at me and say, "Oh, Mr. Bradbury, you're text messaging, you're playing whatever," and I said, "No, I'm sitting here taking attendance." And I'll show them I have my attendance app out. I recently got my iPad and I've got it working in the class, and I'm noticing that the kids can't take their hands off of it, and in fact, they're now coming up to me saying, "Can I do the attendance today?" And I'm like, "These are high school kids."
Yeah,
but they're giddy as anything to sit there and put the little check mark on it, because on an iPad screen you can usually get the kids' photos up there, and they'll take over the classroom and take my attendance for me. Of course, I check myself at the end, But what are you guys finding any differences between using your iPhone and using your iPad in the class or in daily teachings?
Certainly, the phone. I got scowls from especially other teachers, especially ones that are a little older. Don't really understand that I'm not really. It's not a toy. It is a toy actually, but I'm not using it as a toy at the moment. But the kids will look at me a little bit funny. But with the iPad, most of the time the kids just go, "Is that an iPad?" And just the fact that they ask that question and it's a little bit different. They're just like, they see an apple on the back of my computer and they think I'm rich or something. I'm just like, no, you don't understand. It's an investment. You have to understand. These are the tools that I use to do my job. And the iPad, they seem to take a little bit more seriously as an educational tool than my phone. So a little bit easier to work with the iPad. But I don't let my kids touch the thing because I just can't imagine one of them dropping it. And then I go, that's I think the 32 gig 3G model. So good luck replacing that.
I have a really nice thick case on mine, and they don't remove it from my desk, but they'll sit there at my chair as I'm getting the projector ready, and they'll do their attendance, and they love it. Cary, have you come up with any differences between people looking at you on a phone versus a pad, or?
No, not really. I think they realize that the iPad is more prestigious, I would say, because you can't really necessarily make a call on it. They think that you're doing something of more value than just making a phone call. They don't put the connection with the apps and all of that. But the other day at our open house, I had my iPad sitting out at a table in front of my classroom, and parents were coming and going, and I had the little website for our school up. And, several people were coming by saying, "Oh, is that an iPad? Is that an iPad?" I said, "Yes." And some kids were getting a little unruly, little small children. And so I just popped up Angry Birds and let them play on it. I don't have a problem letting kids play with the iPad as long as it's sitting still.
I do like putting the Angry Birds on my projection screen, and you have a 10-foot wide Angry Birds in high def.
It is fun.
It is the best thing to do on a Friday night when the kids just don't want to be there anymore, and it's been a long week, or you're going into a holiday. You throw in some Angry Birds, and those kids are amazing for you.
Right, but, that's definitely a good reward.
I hear the same few stories from teachers as I'm talking to them. We have these meetings at the beginning of school, and it's always the same meeting of, we want to embrace technology, we want you to do well, we want to move into the 21st century, rah, 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 technology. And then 5 minutes later, it's, iPads are great, and we just got all these iPads and rah, rah, rah technology, and then 5 minutes later it's put your phone away. And I'm always looking at that going, but the iPad and the iPhone are running the same exact technology, the same exact apps in some cases. In some cases, the iPhone actually has more options than the iPad.
I think it's a social, I don't know if it's a stigma or what, but I don't know, probably 15 years ago, maybe, it was considered rude to have your cell phone in public, and out and talking on it in a restaurant. You were considered I don't know how far back you guys go, but it was just considered rude. And nowadays everybody does it, and it's fine. And we've just kind of entered this area where everybody's kind of looking down at their phone all the time. And now the iPad's out. It's just a larger version. And I think probably within the next 3 or 4 years, it's going to be a paradigm shift from thinking this is just a toy, probably how the computer was viewed in the 80s, to this is a tool as well. So I think we're just starting to see the beginning of that.
I've had kids, when I'm teaching technology in my classroom, let's say, I do a podcasting lesson in my music history class where they have to go out and do a project. Instead of teaching them how to stand up and give a speech, we'll actually do group presentations on, give a podcast. So they need to learn how to use iMovie, GarageBand, etc., etc. Sometimes the websites are blocked. I have no problem with a kid coming in with their iPhone and using it on the internet to get information. I guess the question I'll pose is, would you guys have a problem if the kid pulled out his iPad and started using it for research in your classroom?
I wouldn't have a problem, but there's no cell phone signal in my room. I'm in a dead zone.
Ooh. Ooh.
I wouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, you're definitely saying iPad or iPhone?
Well, let's assume that there was Wi-Fi in your school. Okay, let's just say let's assume that the kid could get on. Now, there's a lot of issues of, do you give the kids the Wi-Fi password? But either way, would you have a problem with the kid pulling out his iPad and using it for research versus pulling out his phone and having his phone on there at the same time? Phones have voice recorders. You can pull a Bluetooth keyboard on an iPhone. You can do everything that you want to on an iPad on an iPhone or iPod Touch, basically.
Right, and here's what I just want to touch base on about this, because there has been in my school district a problem with kids with cell phones and recording and posting things on YouTube. It really breaks down to teacher and student. I don't know. Making sure that the teacher is supervising and not just stuck at their desk. You know, you've got to be up and moving around the room and being aware of what your students are doing.
Mm-hmm. Keeping them engaged, I think.
Exactly. Because, like I said, in my district, there have been problems with the teacher being totally disengaged, sitting at the desk, and a fight breaking out and being videotaped and posted on YouTube. So that would be my problem with it. But, again, I am the type of teacher that doesn't sit down, and I'm always walking around my room. Mm-hmm. That's not saying that's not going to happen in my room, because, you know, they are kids. They're pretty clever. But you just have to be very, very diligent. And I guess, no, I wouldn't have a problem as long as I'm very aware of what's going on.
I would actually say that I would be uneasy with the cell phone versus the iPad, just because it's a text messaging powerhouse, the cell phone. And let's just say, for argument's sake, that you know, you're going to get a signal in most places, and the kids are going to the bathroom just to text each other where I'm at, because the cell phones are not allowed out. And I don't know. It's just one of those things where if I see a cell phone out, I know that they're texting somebody or looking at a text, and that's been one of the bigger issues for us. The iPad can do texting too. It's just not as easy to do with a straightforward phone number texting plan. You can get around it, but that cell phone's going to pop up with a text message if the kid's sitting there in front of it and using it. At least if I were their age, it would. I don't know.
I think this has been a great conversation, guys. Thank you so much for just bringing your experiences and wealth of knowledge. Do you guys have your iPads on you?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Well, we've come to the app discussion, or as we've calling it, these are a few of my favorite apps. Cary, let's go with you first, and then we'll go to Chris, and give us an app. Tell us what it's about, and you know, either why you use it or how you use it in the classroom, and I'm really anxious to you know, hear what you guys come up with.
Okay, the first one I'm going to mention is Grammar Up, and that's actually an iPhone app, but I do run it on my iPad because I'm an English teacher, and who doesn't like grammar after all?
You're talking to two music teachers here.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, there are a few other grammar apps for the iPad, but the one I actually really like is this iPhone app, because it allows you to test and do different things in regards to the different parts of speech, and just scroll through the menu here. You can do nouns, you can do adverbs and adjectives, and there's a test. Like I said, you can take a test on any of those different subcategories, and like I said, I project that onto my big screen, and the students go through and work in partners to get that app accomplished.
Nice. Is that called Grammar App HD by chance?
It's, hold on just a second. It is Grammar Up.
Up as in UP?
Yes.
Grammar Up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to make sure we have the right show notes here. Chris, what do you got?
Let me see. As far as classroom instruction goes, I have to use a lot of Windows-specific software. So as what I've set up on one of the school computers, and it's called iTeleport. And this is kind of it's not that difficult, but most people would find that this is kind of a neat way to use the iPad that's a little bit different. I have my grade book software on a computer in the room, and I have installed iTeleport on that computer. Now, I have an app on my iPad called iTeleport as well, and it speaks to that computer and just displays that screen on my iPad. And with the multitasking capability of the iPad, being able to go back and forth here or there, I'm able to have my grade book, which is running in Windows, on my iPad, which I think is really pretty awesome, and not running on my iPad, but running on a computer 20 feet away, and then being able to print or do whatever you need from the computer as well. Very, very handy to do that. There's actually a couple of other tools that I use as well. One is really silly called iBanner HD, where you basically type a few words and it's like the Vegas lights. Mm-hmm. It just goes across with a message. And the kids, if you got a big crowd of kids and you want to get something done without screaming in the hallway, if it has to be more quiet, you can hold that sign up and it gets their attention very quickly. That's what was that called? That iBanner HD.
Nice.
I think it was free as well. iTeleport is not free. That one was probably $12 or $15 or so.
Looks like there was a $24 version and a $19 version.
Oh, they may have raised the price on that.
But iBanner looks really, really neat. A couple of the ones that I was looking at, Chris had already mentioned Keynote. Now, Keynote is like PowerPoint, but they've got a great app for the iPad, and I use it for my presentations. But I want to piggyback that and say, if you're going to do Keynote, you got to get the Keynote remote. And really what the Keynote remote does is, let's say you're running Keynote on your laptop or on your desktop computer through your projector, you can take that iPad or iPhone with the remote app and walk all around the room and still control your Keynote presentations. The remote is basically, as you said, it's a remote, but it also can show you the presenter notes. It can show you the next slide. It shows you all the builds. They just released over the last few months an upgrade where you can now control the iPad Keynote version with the iPhone. So you can cut out the computer completely. I just did a concert where I was running a big presentation off of my iPad, and I controlled it with my iPhone, and I was completely able to walk around the room. So many times with the projector cable, we're kind of tethered to the screen, but with this iPad remote, we're absolutely free. And so that would be one of my apps. Cary, give me another app.
I really like GarageBand because we, when we do a piece of literature, we like to make podcasts, and GarageBand is an excellent app for doing that.
And you use it on the iPad as well as the Mac?
I will be using it on the iPad this year, as opposed to just having it on the regular computers. Yes.
Have you tried using it with the camera kit?
No, not yet.
Here's a tip for you guys out there. For $29.99, Apple sells this thing called the iPad camera kit. Now, it has a lot of features if you're using it with a camera, but there's two little devices that you can plug into your iPad. One of them is a USB port, and the other one is a little SD card reader. But if you plug in the attachment that has the USB port, now all of a sudden your iPad has a whole another world to it. If you're using GarageBand, you can plug in a USB microphone to it. I have actually done a lot of podcasting strictly through the USB mic slots and using GarageBand. And for Chris, you can actually plug in a USB MIDI keyboard.
Oh, yeah.
And so now you're playing the digital keyboard that GarageBand has, but you're doing it through a 5-8 octave MIDI keyboard. So there's a lot of possibilities out there with that iPad camera kit, and there's so many more things out there. If you just do a Google search for iPad camera kit, and what else can you do with it? But I had to bring that one up with GarageBand. There's so many good possibilities. I just did an app review on GarageBand today.
That's so much fun to use just to waste time, just to sit around and play with GarageBand. It's on the iPad. And I don't know, they just really nailed it with that one. It's just so much fun to use.
Chris, give us another app.
Well, when I don't have to use my gradebook, I like to use an app called Teacher's Assistant Pro, and this is actually one of the apps that I developed. And what it does is it tracks student behavior, and it's always open. This is what I usually have open beside my gradebook when I'm multitasking. And from the time I can open my smart cover, the app is already open. I tap a student's name and basically tap there's a pre-selected list that you can put in ahead of time of maybe what the students have done in the past, from forgetting their instrument to forgetting their pencil to their homework or talking back or doing something good. It doesn't always have to be bad. But then from the time I'm opening the smart cover to actually documenting something a student's done in class that maybe mom and dad or the principal needs to know about, maybe at 8 to 10 seconds. And it's real quick, real easy to use. And that's I basically wrote it for myself, to be honest with you, because there just wasn't anything out there that just focused on the behavioral issues that we have to deal with in the classroom.
Cary, your app?
My next app would have to be, and this sounds kind of funny, but it's called Puppet Pals HD. And it basically is an app that you can import photographs and then cut them to make little puppets out of them. It sounds very silly, but it's very, very cool. And you can actually tell a story. And you can record audio. So you can have the students maybe summarize something using little puppets or pictures or whatever. And it's very, very cool. I haven't used it in my classroom because I just got it like over the summer, but I've already used it with my two smaller kids, and they really enjoy it. And I see it as an English teacher. You could use it to have students plot diagram a story, character analysis, conflict, the different types of conflict, and they could even create their own drawings, and you could scan those in and then utilize those in this app. So there are a lot of different options with it.
Every year my administrators want me to keep track of our parent contacts, and they want us to make a list and keep a journal of every time we talk to a kid or make a phone call, email home. And I found an app that's just known as the letter C Journal, C Journal. And basically what it can do is it can import names from your address book, and it's available for both the iPhone and iPad. But it imports the names and contacts from your address book, and it helps you keep a list of every time you've made a phone call, written a text message, talked to an individual, and it just keeps a journal and just keeps a log of every interaction you've had with different people. And then at the end, you can email that to yourself or to your administrator, and it's a great little app, C Journal. Chris, what's your next?
Actually, a little hardware-software combo. The Airport Express I use all the time. And what this is basically an internet router. You plug it into the wall. It's about the size of a little deck of cards. And you plug it into a printer. It's got a USB port. And then there's a headphone jack on it. You plug into a set of speakers. And I can use my laptop, my iPhone, or my iPad to stream music from the iPod app or from sound off of just about any other app like YouTube or anything like that. right through the speakers you might have in your classroom if you're doing something that involves music. So I find myself always, pulling out an example of repertoire in the classroom and letting the kids hear something that they may not have been exposed to before, but doing it wirelessly, along with being able to print wirelessly is pretty cool too.
That is a neat idea. I've been looking at getting something like that, and you said that you can plug your iPod into the airport, and then wirelessly that goes around to your speakers. Well,
the little, it's not even the size of like the power brick that comes with your power, or your Power Mac, your MacBook Pro or your MacBook, and it basically plugs into the wall, it plugs into the internet, and it plugs into speakers. The rest is wireless.
And how much does that run?
It's about $80, I think, now.
And it's small, right? You don't have to leave it in one spot for safety reasons. You can take that with you.
No, it's really, really easy. It was kind of designed for travelers, I think, to begin with, like the people for hotel usage, things like that. But it works really great. I think I've had the two that I own now. I have one at home hooked up to my home stereo, so I can just, right away just listen to something on the home stereo. And the one at school, I think I've had them almost 7 or 8 years, and they just keep trucking. They're great.
Very nice. And do you have much setup for that, or does it just all plug and play?
It's instant. As soon as you plug it into your network, your choice on your iPod actually will have a little button that asks you to switch from your personal device. It'll say iPod, and then you can put a check mark next to that other device, and you can call it classroom stereo. And then when you touch classroom stereo, it's just going to project onto that stereo instead.
Cary, what else do you have?
I have Roadshow.
Roadshow. Let's see what that one is. What is Roadshow?
That just enables you to search various videos that are online, and you can save them, and you don't need a network connection to have it. Now, you have to have the space available. It doesn't allow you to download and save some YouTube videos, but TeacherTube, you could get that and save on your device. I used it in Philadelphia. I enjoy it. I think it's a good opportunity to keep your stuff in a certain collection. There's a little shelf you can keep the videos in by collection. It's pretty neat.
Nice. Well, I'm a big believer in Dropbox. I talk about it often, and Dropbox is, as I think we might have mentioned earlier, it's a cloud-based online storage system. And as a music teacher, I'm always trying to find ways to record my kids and use it. And I found an app called Dropbox, Dropvox. And it's a real simple audio recorder, but the kick of it is as soon as you're finished with the audio recording and you hit stop, it automatically takes that recording and inserts it into your Dropbox folder.
Cool.
So you don't have to worry about syncing. It's automatically there. And I don't remember the price. I don't think it was much, if any. But just a really neat app. I've been using it when I teach my private lessons. And it's just instant access. I can hook it up to my students' Dropbox account. And as soon as the lesson's over, they automatically have the recording of their lesson in their computer ready to listen to.
Awesome.
Chris, go ahead.
Evernote. And I think Evernote is basically your note-taking app on steroids, and it's great for a couple of reasons. Like Dropbox, it's free for so many gigs, and then they want to charge you. But Evernote has completely replaced my note-taking app because it can record audio notes. It can record regular notes if you're at a faculty meeting, and I know how much we take notes at faculty meetings. But the bottom line is it synchronized with another server. So if you have either a computer, I believe Windows, Mac, if you got an iPad, an iPhone, no matter which one you jump on, it's going to synchronize to the other version, and it's all free. And you can upload PDFs, and it'll do character recognition and make the PDF searchable. It actually will even do what's called data detection, which is really, really kind of cool. When you put in a date and a time, for example, when you tap that date or time in the note, it'll just ask you, do you want to create an iCal event out of it automatically? So it really plays to Apple's strengths using their software. So great note-taking app that I use all the time, and it does great things with photos as well, storing them. Not so much in as a classroom tool, but as far as just jotting down ideas that you have in the middle of nowhere, it's great because if you've got your phone with you and you think, oh, wow, I should have said this or that, you just jot it down, and the next thing you know, you're in front of class and you have that information already synced up. It's pretty cool.
Right, and in addition, to piggyback on that, Evernote, you can also do audio recordings and save it that way too. So that's cool.
Yeah, love it. I mean, for free, I did pay for a couple of premium months when I took a trip, and I actually photographed every kid's medical form, put it in Evernote, and I didn't have to lug the forms around with me to our destination. I usually have a big pile of forms, and I just said, no, I'm using my camera, and I photographed every single form, put it in Evernote, and it asked for the upgrade fee because I was going beyond my free part, and I was like glad to pay. It was $5, I think, for the month. And then I could very high resolution, pull out that kid's information if I needed it while we were away from school.
Now, Chris, in the summertime months, do you find yourself going back over your files and listening to those faculty meetings?
All the time. That's all I do. I just
right.
bathe myself in faculty notes.
Well, you'll be having some new ones coming up, so make sure that iPad battery is charged up. I want to piggyback on to the Dropbox idea and syncing back and forth. I found an app called Camera Sync. And there's a few different apps on the App Store that are like this, but basically what Camera Sync is, it'll take all of the photos that are on your iPad, and sync them up to your Dropbox account or your iDisk. My wife recently got a new computer, and she had about 500 photos on her phone that she wasn't able to use effectively. And I tried plugging everything in, and it was just too slow. But as soon as I put Camera Sync on, it wirelessly just popped into her Dropbox account, and we were good to go. And we didn't have to sync anything through iTunes. It was already right there. So, Camera Sync. Cary, give us two last ones.
Okay, one that I've been using for a couple of years, and they basically just came out with an iPad app for it, is PlanBook.
Yes, we had Chris. We had Jeff on the other day doing PlanBook.
Right.
It's a great app.
I have to commend him on his customer service. I have been really excited to share with my my colleagues the ease of use of that program, as well as just the customer support has just been amazing. Anytime I have a problem, he has been there. I mean, I've emailed him in on a weekend. He was like, well, let me help you.
Yes.
It's just amazing. I just can't say enough about that program. I love it.
Do you use both the iPad and the Mac version?
Yeah, yes, I have it on my MacBook, and it syncs seamlessly with Dropbox through Dropbox. I mean, and it's amazing. It literally sitting on my desk, my iPad, the PlanBook is better than the paper one because it coordinates. You can attach documents to it. You can attach the standards that you put in there. It's just amazing.
I would love to talk with you more about that because I've been using it for the last little while, but after having Jeff on the program and talking about how it works, and I did a screencast on it, which is up on iTunes, by the way.
Right.
There's just a lot of things in there I wasn't even aware about, but I like that he has that PlanBook Connect feature where you can take all your documents and information, pop it up on the server, and then your kids have access to seeing what's happening and downloading some of the lesson plans. I mean, if you're not really ready to go and full-blown go into making your own website, having something like PlanBook, it's been really good for me.
Exactly.
And give us one last one.
Okay, one last one. Oh my gosh. I would have to say random.
Random.
Yeah, it's a number generator. That from the English teacher, right? But I just think that this is a really cute idea to number your students it allows you to a minimum number to a maximum number. And so you could I have 26 kids in this class, 1 through 26, and then you just can call on students in that way to respond to a question, and they see it on the iPad, and they well, my number came up. Oh, I'm number 22, or I'm number 15, and then they're more inclined to want to participate because they see their number. I think that's going to be very, very interesting.
Do you also have a side job in deli meats with that app?
What?
Never mind.
Because it's a number. I get it. Yeah. No.
Next. Yeah.
I will have to cut that one out.
I get it now. No, you can leave it.
And this is why my students look forward to the summertime. Chris, give me your last two.
Let's see. For me, the app ClearTune is a tuner, a clear tune. I think it's one word. It may be two in the App Store, but this is just a basic chromatic tuner for music students, and it's very visual. Gives the kids an idea of where they are in regards to pitch. So for a music teacher, it's going to be obviously a little bit more of a better pick. They just updated it days ago for iPad, and so I used to just hit the 2x button and make it look bigger, and now it actually looks pretty nice on there. And let's see, if I had to go with a last one, it would probably be SoundHound. And SoundHound is basically you tap. And again, this can be handy in the classroom if you want to show kids what some of the technology is capable of doing. But it just listens, and actually, if you hum a song, it'll tell you what you're humming, and it's actually quite amazing. So if you just want to start singing a tune, and you're like, what song is that? You just fire this app up, and it'll tell you.
I have to try that.
It's pretty remarkable because you can also take it and put it in front of the TV if there's a song on a commercial while people aren't speaking or something. Like, what song is that? And you get just a couple seconds of it. It'll look it up for you.
Does it do Bach chorales?
I've tested it with a couple of classical tunes, and it's done well.
Really?
It's been okay. It's not 100%, but I don't think it's just pop music.
Now, if a student hums or sight sings something and it doesn't recognize it, can we grade him on that?
Yes.
Really?
Sure.
I have got to try that. But I'll give you two last ones from my list here. The first, obviously, it just came out for the iPad, which is Skype. I mean, we're using it now. To have Skype on your iPhone was nice. To have Skype on your computer is nice. But to be able to put it on your iPad, have a crystal clear HD screen, plug it into your projector, be able to walk around, I mean, that just brings out a ton of possibilities. You now have video conferencing that you can walk around your classroom with wirelessly. I'm really looking forward to being able to use Skype. And the last one, I don't know if you're into these things, Chris, but it's called Music Podium.
Yeah.
And basically what it is, it's a glorified PDF reader, but, for musicians, it has a built-in search feature where you can search through some of the free music libraries and download PDFs of different scores and whatnot. And the best part about it is it annotates on there. So if you're looking at a score or some music, you can circle it and you can highlight it. And, it's not just for music. You can do it with iBooks, anything that's in EPUB or anything that's in PDF form. You can take your book and annotate it. So it's called Music Podium. That's about it. I had Bento on here. I use Bento a lot, but it looks like we have a really nice app list for teachers to go through.
I want to mention one more thing just for fun.
Sure.
This is an augmented reality app, which if people who are not familiar with augmented reality is it uses your camera to kind of feel out the space of where it is. And they have constellation programs where you can point your device at the sky and it tells you exactly what star you're looking at and that type of thing. But in our classroom, music, one just came out in Japan, so the YouTube video was not in English, and but somebody had posted a link to it somewhere. And is the coolest thing, it actually used the camera to read the music. It asked you to tap the rhythm for it, and then through its magicalness played the score. And it was like, that is just unbelievable. So it was reading the notes on the staff correctly, polyphonic, and really, really pretty amazing stuff. So I was like, that is just the neatest thing, that it can actually interpret those dots on the page just as easily as we can.
Was it reading multiple clefs?
The demonstration I saw was a score with multiple clefs, but they only had the camera pointing at one staff.
That is nice.
Yeah.
And I'll give one last one, since you mentioned augmented reality, and this has nothing to do with education. Have you guys tried Duck Hunt on the iPhone?
No.
Oh.
Do you remember Duck Hunt from the Nintendo games? This is an augmented reality where it shows the grass, and then it shows the dog coming out. And if you have an iPad 2, I think it works on the iPad 2, but it's definitely a wonderful app for the iPhone. You have your little rifle, and you move your phone around. It's almost like having like a Wii controller here, but you move your phone around, and that's how you shoot at the ducks. It's the neatest thing, because the background, instead of looking at clouds and sky, you're seeing the back of your wall. Kind of like what the Nintendo 3DS is doing these days.
Right.
But Duck Hunt, try it.
Interesting.
I'm not sure if it's free or not, but definitely try Duck Hunt. Well, I think we have a really neat list of everything going on here. Thank you guys so much for spending the time and hanging out with us today and checking it out.
Been a pleasure.
Cary, would you like to tell us how we can get a hold of you?
Yes, I'm on Twitter. My personal Twitter is Cary F, and my teacher Twitter is Yuma Teacher, at Yuma Teacher.
And Chris, how can we get a hold of you? And tell us a little bit more about that app of yours.
The app is called Teacher's Assistant, and there's a light version and a pro version. It's on sale till the 15th, another week, for $4 in the U.S. It's available worldwide, and it will document your students' behavior from beginning to the end of the year, and when you're done, you can archive that and start all over. So, the way to reach me is Twitter at CleverIOS
If you are interested in learning more about Teacher's Assistant, I know a great website that has some really nice reviews on it, and Chris was a great addition to that website. Last week he came on and did an app spotlight on that. So check us out, Teacher's Assistant. It's on iTunes. It's also on our teachercast.net website. I've been using that app for a while. I'm going to continue using that app. It's really simple to use to import all of your students. And you said the new features that it's now broken down by classes, right, Chris?
Oh yeah, you can subdivide your student list into classes. You can replace any of the words in the app that you would rather switch out. Instead of an action, you might call it an infraction or any of those types of things. You can customize the app to basically whatever you want as far as the words go. Then you can, if you've got the phone, there's the word phone is right there on the student name, and it calls the parent right there. Or you can blast an email right then and there. It's very, very, very simple. It's designed to be easy to use and fast in the classroom. So for iPhone and iPad as well. So as a matter of fact, if you don't mind, the first, 10, we'll say first 10 people who mention the show, I'll send them a free code to download this, so you can put that on Twitter if you want. I don't care.
Hey, that's great. Giving out 10 free codes to that. And I was sitting here chuckling because only a music teacher would use the term subdividing your classes. I like that.
I'm sorry. Dividing our classes into subgroups. Whatever.
You said subdivide and my foot started tapping. It's just a reaction.
Up and one and. Yes.
Foot goes down on the beat. Foot goes up on the and. Everybody please. 1 and 2 and a. Well, I think on that note, we'll close things out. Thanks for listening to the TeacherCast podcast. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, teachercast.net, to your friends and colleagues. We can be found on Twitter at the screen name TeacherCast. Be sure to check out our iTunes channel for TeacherCast products, podcasts, and app reviews that are beneficial to you, the 21st century educator. If you like what you hear, please write us a review and give us a 5-star rating. This has been a TeacherCast production. Join us next time for another edition of the TeacherCast podcast.